We have been blessed by another appearance on LBC with the insufferable James O'Brien, who's interviewing someone much worse. Alistair Campbell. Take a look.
I'll tell you how bad I get it sometimes. I will be having a sleepless night.
Yeah.
And I'll be lying in bed, can't sleep, giving up on, that time when you get and you just think, it's pointless. I'm lying there and I'm thinking, do you know what? When Gordon asked me 2 years before the election to go back and help him, I went back eventually for the last few months, right? But I wonder if I'd have gone back, would that have made a difference? And I wonder if Gordon had won. I have the same thing about not doing enough for David Miliband to become leader of the Labour Party. If I'd have helped David more, would he have become Labour leader? If he'd have become Labour leader, would that have stopped David Cameron becoming Prime Minister? Would that mean we wouldn't have the Brexit referendum? If we didn't have the Brexit referendum, we wouldn't have had Trump as president.
I can see why you're not going back to sleep.
If we didn't have Trump as president, the world wouldn't be coming to an end. And I think, it's all your fault, you lazy no wonder you can't sleep.
First of all, I find it very telling that his sleepless nights aren't down to the fact that he helped pursue an illegal invasion that killed up to 500,000 people. But this is a perfect encapsulation of being out of touch. All of the recent big political developments happened due to long-term underlying reasons, not just a lack of a slick politician. Brexit happened because millions were disillusioned with the status quo. Now, yes, of course, there were racist elements too. I mean, not all Brexit voters are racist, by the way, but because the campaign for Brexit featured a ridiculous amount of dog whistles, which definitely got a lot of people to vote that way. Plus, racist and xenophobic campaigns have always existed. It's not a new thing. It's not like it started in 2015. Now, there's no guarantee that David Miliband would have beaten Cameron. I don't think he would have anyway. Now, Labour lost Scotland and it made way for a party to its left. During 2010 and 2015, there was a cry for more left-wing politics. Corbyn wouldn't have become leader. Labour wouldn't have deprived the Tories of a majority in 2017 if there wasn't a vacuum to be filled. That's just a fact. And despite 2019, that election doesn't change recent history. How does David help to defeat Trump in 2016? It's just pure fantasy. Trump won because he successfully used racism as a tool to win power, which is being done time and time again, as I've just explained. The other reason was because Hillary Clinton was a terrible, terrible candidate. The US doesn't have universal healthcare. The minimum wage hasn't been raised for years, yet the richer are getting richer. The Democrats had nothing to say. They did nothing in office. Obama literally had a supermajority. The Dems could have literally passed anything they wanted. They could have raised the minimum wage federally to $10 an hour, and this is back in 2012. I mean, now it should be at least 50, maybe even 20 when you look at how the billionaire class has exploded, yet the rest of us have been left behind. They could have passed free healthcare, brought back Glass-Steagall that had heavy regulations of the banks. Combine that with a really bad candidate in Clinton running against Trump, then you lose. Campbell and all those in the inner circle have no idea what it's like for the working class today. They haven't been hit by the Tories' horrendous austerity. People wanted change, and with no viable left candidate, the right sailed to victory. Only now, with Trump doing sweet fuck all in office, Biden won. Added context, Biden worked with Bernie and the left, something Starmer actively doesn't want to do. Now over here, the Tories have literally imploded, so a cardboard cutout of a Labour leader is now a viable option. Now none of this invalidates the fact that there are long-term deep-seated problems, and a better-dressed, slicker politician in David Miliband would not have been able to stop any of these things. Now let's pretend David was Labour leader and they had won in 2015. Now what? David is a hardcore Blairite. They wouldn't have changed anything in a meaningful way. They wouldn't have addressed economic inequality. They wouldn't have reformed capitalism to at least try and rebalance things. They have no ideas, so would have done nothing to say on automation, job losses, global capitalism. So what you'd end up with is the same underlying problems that caused these demagogues to rise to power anyway. The only potential thing would be that Labour wouldn't have called a referendum on the EU, meaning we may have not had Brexit, but that doesn't stop anything from bubbling up. It doesn't stop disillusionment, which largely caused Brexit in the first place. Now, there's nothing to say that the Tories couldn't have won an election afterwards by saying we need a referendum on the EU, which is exactly what they said in 2015, and we know what happened. Now, best case scenario, we would have pushed back a right-wing Tory government for 5, maybe 10 years. But look at it in a US context. It's 7 years since Trump won in 2016, yet there is now another right-wing candidate in Ron DeSantis that is running. So these right-wing forces would in no way would have been stopped if David Miliband won. These lot think the height of British society was the 2012 Olympics. Everything was great. Politics only began in 2016 when Remain lost. I'm sorry, it's always been politics. And even though it was stable for the political class, the working class has been on the receiving end of the class war forever, in which it was accelerated by Thatcher. But these centrist melts like O'Brien and war criminal Campbell are completely delusional.